Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Ram Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayantiriyat Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistike. So continuing with the discussion on Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 24, the 61 explanations of the Atmaram verse, text 337. So Mahaprabhu is explaining deity worship process. Shankha Jala Gandha Pushpa Dhupadi Lakshana Japastuti Parikrama Dandvat Bandhan. The items of worship such as water, conch shell, flowers, incense and lamp should be described. You should also mention chanting softly, offering prayers, circumambulating, and offering obeisances. All these should be carefully described. So all these are mentioned in the Hari Bhakti Vilas. The 8th Vilas of that book should be consulted as far as possible. Purascharan Vidhi Krishna Prasad Bhojan Anivedita Tyaga Vaishnav Nindali Varjan. Other items you should describe are the method of performing Purascharan, taking Krishna Prasadam, giving up unoffered food, and not blaspheming the Lord's devotees. Sadhu Lakshan, Sadhu Sangha, Sadhu Sevan, Asata Sangha Tyag Shri, Bhagavata Shravan. You should describe the symptoms of a devotee, how to associate with devotees, how to satisfy a devotee by rendering service, and how to give up the association of non-devotee. You should also explain the value of regularly hearing the recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam. Din Kritya, Paksha Kritya, Ekadashi Adi Vivrana, Masa Kritya, Janmashtami, Yadi Vidhi Vichara. You should describe the ritualistic duties to be performed every day, and you should also describe the fortnightly duties, especially how to observe the fortnightly Ekadashi fast. You should also describe the duties to be observed every month, and you should especially describe the observance of ceremonies like Janmashtami, Ramnavami, and Narsimha Chaturdashi. Ekadashi, Janmashtami, Vaman Dwadashi, Sri Ram Navami, Ara Narsimha Chaturdashi. Ekadashi, Janmashtami, Vaman Dwadashi, Ramnavami, and Narsimha Chaturdashi. All these should be described. यही सब विद्या त्याग अविद्या कारण अकरणे दोष कैले भक्तिरलंभन. You should recommend the avoidance of mixed Ekadashi and the performance of pure Ekadashi. So mixed Ekadashi is when even 1 minute is of Dashmi Tithi is there in Ekadashi. So we don't observe that. You should also describe the fault in not observing Ekadashi. One should be very careful as far as these items are concerned. If one is not careful, one will be negligent in executing devotional service. Sarvatra Pramana Dibbe Purana Vachana Shri Murti Vishnu Mandir Karana Lakshana. Whatever you say about Vaishnava behavior, the establishment of Vaishnava temples and deities, and everything else should be supported by evidence from the Puranas. Samanya Sadachara Ara Vaishnava Achara Kartavya Sab Smartavya Vahara. You should give general and specific descriptions of the behavior and activities of a Vaishnava. You should outline things that are to be done and things that are not to be done. All these should be described as regulations and etiquette. Ei Sankshepe Sutra Kahilun Digdarshana Yabe Tumi Likhiva Krishna Karabe Surana. I have thus given a synopsis of the Vaishnav regulative principles. I have given this in brief just to give you a little direction. When you write on this subject, Krishna will help you by spiritually awakening you. One cannot write on spiritual matters without being blessed by Krishna and the disciplic succession of gurus. The blessings of the authorities are one's power of attorney. One should not try to write anything about Vaishnava behavior and activities without being authorized by superior authorities. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarchayo viduho. एक कहिलो प्रभुर सनातन प्रसाद यहार श्रवणे चित्तेर khande avasad. Thus I have narrated Lord Chaitanya's mercy upon Sanatana Goswami. When one hears these topics, one's heart will be cleansed of all contamination. निज ग्रंथ कर्णपुर विस्तार करिया सनातने प्रभुर प्रसाद राखिया च लिखिया. The authorized poet Kavi Karnapur has written a book named Chaitanya Chandroday Natak. This book tells how Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu blessed Sanatana Goswami with a specific mercy. So next verse, I will not read the verse. The translation is Srila Sanatana Goswami, the elder brother of Srila Rupa Goswami, was a most important minister in the government of Hussain Shah, the ruler of Bengal, and he was considered a most brilliant gem in that assembly. He possessed all the opulence of a royal position, but he gave up everything just to accept the youthful goddess of renunciation. Although he externally appeared to be a mendicant who had renounced everything, he was filled with pleasure of devotional service within his heart. Thus, he can be compared to a deep lake covered with moss. He was the object of pleasure for all the devotees who knew the signs of devotional service. So, compared to a deep lake covered with moss means from the top, nobody could think that he is such a great personality, but inside he was deep in bhakti. Tam sanatanam upagatam akshanor drishtamatram atimatra dayardra alilinga parighayat dorabhyam sanukampam atha champak gora. As soon as Sanatana Goswami arrived in front of Lord Chaitanya, the Lord, seeing him, became merciful to him. The Lord, who has the complexion of a golden champak flower, opened his arms and embraced him while expressing great affection. Kalena Vrindavan Keli Varta Lukteti Tam Kaya Payitum Vishishya Kripam Ritena Abhishishecha Devas Tatreva Rupam Cha Sanatanam Cha. In the course of time, the transcendental news of Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan was almost lost. To enunciate explicitly those transcendental pastimes, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu empowered Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami with the nectar of his mercy to carry out this work in Vrindavan. Eita kahilo Sanatana Prabhura Prasada Yahara Shravane Chittera Khandeha Vasada. I have thus explained the mercy bestowed on Sanatana Goswami by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. If one hears this description, all moroseness in the heart will diminish. Krishnera Swarupa Ganera Sakal Hai Jnana Vidhi Rage Marge Sadhan Bhaktira Vidhana. By reading these instructions to Sanatana Goswami, one will become fully aware of Lord Krishna's various expansions and the process of devotional service, according to the regulative principles and spontaneous love. Thus, everything can be fully known. Krishna Prema Bhakti Rasa Siddhanta Ihara Shravane Bhakta Janena Savanta. By reading these instructions, a pure devotee can understand love of Krishna, the mellow of devotional service, and the conclusion of devotional service. Everyone can understand all these things to the ultimate end by studying these instructions. Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Advaita Charana Yar Prana Dhan Sai Paye Dhana. The conclusion of these instructions can be known to one whose life and soul are the lotus feet of Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, and Advaita Prabhu. Shri Rupa Raghunath Pade Jara Asha Chaitanya Charitamrita Kahe Krishna Dasa. Praying at the lotus feet of Shri Rupa and Shri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishna Das, narrate Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita, following in their footsteps. So thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 24, describing the Atmaram verse and the Lord's mercy upon Sanatana Goswami. So we still have time, we can start next chapter, chapter 25, how all the residents of Varanasi became Vaishnavas. So this is the last chapter of Madhya Lila. Text one. Vaishnavi Kritya Sannyasi Mukhan Kashi Nivasina Sanatanam Su Samskritya Prabhur Niladrim Agamat. After converting into Vaishnavas, all the residents of Varanasi who were headed by the sannyasis, and after completely educating and instructing Sanatana Goswami there, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned to Jagannath Puri. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. All glories to Lord Chaitanya, all glories to Lord Nityananda, all glories to Advaita Chandra, and all glories to all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya. Ei Mata Mahaprabhu Dui Mas Paryanta Shikhaila Tare Bhakti Siddhante Anta. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed Sri Sanatana Goswami in all the conclusions of devotion service for 2 consecutive months. Paramananda Kirtanya Shekharera Sangi Prabhure Kirtanya Shanaya Ati Badarangi. For as long as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in Varanasi, Paramananda Kirtanya, who was a friend of Chandrasekhar, chanted the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and other songs to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in a very humorous way. Sanyasira Gana Prabhure Yadi Upekshila Bhakta Dukha Khandaite Tare Kripa Kahila. When the Mayavadi sannyasis at Varanasi criticized Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Lord's devotees became very much depressed. To satisfy them, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed his mercy to the sannyasis. Sannyasire kripa purve likhi acha vistariya uddeshe kahiye iha sankshepa kariya. In the 7th chapter of the Adi Lila, I have already elaborately described Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's deliverance of the sannyasis at Varanasi. But I shall briefly repeat it in this chapter. Yaha taha prabhur ninda kare sannyasir gana shuni dukhe maharashtriya viprakare chintan. When the Mayavadi sannyasis were criticizing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu anywhere and everywhere in Varanasi, the Maharashtrian Brahman, hearing this blasphemy, began to think about this unhappily. Prabhura Swabhava Jeva Dekhe Sannidhane Swarup Anupam and Swarup Anubhavi Tare Ishwar Kari Man. The Maharashtrian Brahman thought, whoever closely sees the characteristics of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately realizes his personality and accepts him as the Supreme Lord. Kona prakare paro yadi ekatra karite iha dekhi sannyasi gana haba iha re bhakte. If by some means I can assemble all the sannyasis together, they will certainly become his devotees after seeing his personal characteristics. So if one saw the personal characteristics and activities of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one would certainly be convinced that he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One can ascertain this by following in the footsteps of the Shastric injunctions. This sincere study and appreciation of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also applicable to his authorized devotees, and it is clearly stated in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Kali kalera dharma Krishna nama sankirtan. Krishna Shakti vina nahi tara pravartan. In this age of Kali, real religious propaganda should induce people to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Inducing people to chant Hare Krishna is possible for someone who is especially empowered by Krishna. No one can do this without being especially favored by Krishna. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments in this regard in his Anubhashya, wherein he quotes a verse from Narayana Samhita. Dvapariyera janera Vishnu pancharatris kevale. Kalau tu nama matrena pujyate Bhagavan Hari. In Dwapar Yuga, devotees of Lord Vishnu and Krishna rendered devotional service according to the principles of Pancharatra. In this age of Kali, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is worshipped simply by the chanting of His holy names. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur then comments, without being empowered by the direct potency of Lord Krishna to fulfill his desire and without being specifically favored by the Lord, no human being can become the spiritual master of the whole world. Means it can only happen by favor or by mercy of the Supreme Lord. He certainly cannot succeed by mental concoction, which is not meant for devotees or religious people. Only an empowered personality can distribute the holy name of the Lord and enjoin all fallen souls to worship Krishna. By distributing the holy name of the Lord, he cleanses the hearts of the most fallen people. Therefore, he extinguishes the blazing fire of the material world. Not only that, he broadcasts the shining brightness of Krishna's effulgence throughout the world. Such an acharya or spiritual master should be considered non-different from Krishna. That is, he should be considered the incarnation of Lord Krishna's potency. Such a personality is Krishna Lingita Vigraha, that is always embraced by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Such a person is above the considerations of the Varnashram institution. He is a guru or spiritual master for the entire world, a devotee on the topmost platform, the Mahabhagavad state, and a Paramhansa Thakur, or a spiritual form only fit to be addressed as Paramhansa or Thakur. So Prabhupada is speaking so much about, he's not talking about himself, but it's so clear, it's him only. Means he's a guru for the entire world. He preached the message of Mahaprabhu and Krishna throughout the world. And at such an advanced age, he was traveling all over and preaching, writing books, interviewing, giving interviews, teaching his disciples how to do everything for the temple. And so many things. Teaching them how to cook, how to paint, how to keep the accounts, how to preach, how to distribute books, how to run business like Govindas. So many things he taught. And it couldn't have happened without the mercy of Krishna. Nonetheless, there are many people who are just like owls and never open their eyes to see the sunshine. These owlish personalities, who are inferior even to the Mayavadi sannyasis, cannot see the brilliance of Krishna's favor upon the Mahabhagavad devotee. They are prepared to criticize a person engaged in distributing the holy name all over the world and following in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who wanted Krishna consciousness preached in every town and city. So Prabhupada also had to go through so much. So many people being against him, so many obstacles. But he kept going, just kept going. And first of all, without losing focus and without compromising with the principles. That is the most important. वाराणसी वास हमारा है सर्व काल दुख पावा इह न करी. I shall have to reside at Varanasi the rest of my life. If I do not try to carry out this plan, I shall certainly continue to suffer mental depression. That was it, Maharashtrian Brahman thinking. Eto chinti nimantrila sannyasira gane tabe se vipra aila Mahaprabhu rasthane. Thinking like this, the Maharashtrian Brahman extended an invitation to all the sannyasis of Varanasi. After doing this, he finally approached Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to extend him an invitation. Hena kale ninda shuni shekhara tapana dukha paya prabhu pade kaila nivedana. At this time, Chandrasekhar and Tapan Mishra both heard blasphemous criticism against Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and felt very unhappy. They came to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's lotus feet to submit a request. Bhakta dukha dekhi prabhu mane te chintila sannyasira mana firaite mana haila. They submitted their request, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, seeing his devotees' unhappiness, decided to turn the minds of the Mayavadi sannyasis. Hena kale vipra asi karila nimantrana aneka danyadi kari dharila charak. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was seriously considering meeting with the Mayavadi sannyasis, the Maharashtrian Brahman approached him and extended an invitation. The Brahman submitted his invitation with great humility, and he touched the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Tabe Mahaprabhu tara nimantranam manila ar din madhyan kari tar ghar gela. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted his invitation, and the next day, after finishing his noontime activities, he went to the Brahman's house. Taha yache kaila Prabhu sannyasir nistara pancha tattva khyane taha kariyachi vistara. I've already described Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's deliverance of the Mayavadi sannyasis in the 7th chapter of the Adi Lila, when I described the glories of Panchatattva. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Prabhu, Gadadhar Prabhu, and Shrivas. Grantha Bale Punarakuti Haita Kathana Taha ye na likhun, taha kar ye likhana. Since I've already described this incident very elaborately in the 7th chapter of the Adi Lila, I do not wish to increase the size of this book by giving another description. However, I shall try to include in this chapter whatever was not described there. Yedivas Prabhu Sannyasira Kripa Kaila, Sedivas Haite Grame Kolahal Haila. Beginning from the day on which Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed his mercy to the Mayavadi sannyasis, there were vivid discussions about this conversation among the inhabitants of Varanasi. Lokera Sangatai se Prabhu Radekite Nana Shastre Panditai se Shastra Vicharite. Crowds of people came to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from that day on, and scholars of various scriptures discussed different subject matters with the Lord. Sarva Shastra Khandi Prabhu Bhakti Kare Shara Sayuktika Vakya Man Firahe Sabara. When people came to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to discuss the principles of various scriptures, the Lord defeated their false conclusions and established the predominance of devotion service to the Lord. With logic and argument, he very politely changed their minds. So Prabhupada says, we have been spreading the Sankirtan movement in the Western countries and in our recent tours of European cities like Rome, Geneva, Paris, and Frankfurt. Many learned Christian scholars, priests, philosophers, and yogis came to see us, and by the grace of Krishna, they agreed that the Krishna consciousness movement, the Bhakti cult, offers the topmost conclusion. Following in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we are trying to convince everyone that the devotional service of the Lord is enjoined in every scripture. If a person is religious, he must accept the supreme authority of the Lord, become his devotee, and try to love him. This is the real principle of religion. It doesn't matter whether one is Christian, Muslim, or whatever. He simply must accept the sublime position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and render service unto Him. It is not a question of being Christian, Muslim, or Hindu. One should be purely religious and freed from all these material designations. In this way, one can learn the art of devotion service. This argument appeals to all intelligent men, and consequently, the Krishna consciousness movement is gaining ground throughout the world. Due to our solid logic and scientific presentation, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's prediction that Krishna consciousness will spread to every town and village throughout the world is gradually being realized. See, Prabhupada so nicely, he's not saying that we are against any Christianity or Islam or anything. Everybody's fine. They just need to develop love for God. That's all. Okay, I guess we can stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments? Okay, you all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada.